Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. So this is the 15th episode of Speedify Live, and we are streaming live tonight on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And we do this every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern. I'm your host, Alex Gizis. Our goal for every episode of this show is to spotlight someone or something that's really interesting in the world of live streaming. And hopefully someone who can give, some useful tips of one sort or another to help you improve your streams. And boy, oh boy, we've got another good one tonight. On the future of live streaming, we have Doug Petkanics. I just said it wrong. After all that talk of saying your name right, I messed it up. Doug Petkanics. I'm a mess. Sorry. The CEO of LivePeer, who is in the process of reinventing live streaming and how video is hosted on the internet with the help of blockchain and Ethereum and Web 3.0. So we're with Speedify doing the stream. Of course, Speedify is kind of on the other end of the equation, right, from where Doug is. So we are software that runs on your device that lets you stream across the Wi-Fi, across cellular at the same time. So you get the speed of all of them added up going out to the cloud. Doug's software, although I'm going to let him explain it, is very much on the other side then. Once it makes it up to the cloud, how do you distribute it to everyone who wants to watch? So thank you for being here tonight, Doug.
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks for having me. Very excited to be here and excited about what you're all doing at Speedify.
Cool. So for anyone watching, we are live. So if you have questions, you can just post them on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, and we will see them and answer them. So Doug, why don't you tell us a little, what is LivePeer? What is the vision here? What are you guys doing?
Sure. Yeah, you started with a pretty ambitious statement there, reinventing the future of streaming. I hope we get to play, a little bit of a positive role in making that kind of impact. But first and foremost, I think it's pretty simple. We're trying to create the world's open video infrastructure for streaming, right? So right now, a lot of video streaming software is closed source. It's proprietary. It might be expensive to use and access, and particularly if you're building a live streaming application and you need to use an infrastructure to do it at scale, where you have many users, thousands of users all trying to stream at once, you kind of only have a few choices running through these expensive proprietary infrastructures. So at LivePeer, we build open source streaming software, and we actually have this huge network of thousands of computers around the world that kind of run that software in order to let app developers power their streaming applications and let hundreds or thousands of their users stream at once. And we coordinate it all by this new type of technology called blockchain technology, built on a network called Ethereum. Happy to explain how that plays a role and how that enables this sort of thing. But it's exciting. We're a few years in, and we have a lot of apps that are live that have hundreds of people streaming through them in different verticals. So it's been a good start, and we got a lot of work to do.
All right. So so I think most of our audience generally are people who know more about Rtmp than blockchain. So can you give us sort of a high level picture of how the blockchain and these tokens all fit into this world?
Sure thing. So,
or what they are.
A blockchain is just like a database, right? That we all have a copy of, and anyone that wants to get a copy of this database can get a copy, and everyone can trust that database is kind of showing the truth, and no one has manipulated it. They can see every update that's been made to it, who made those updates, and kind of what the state is. So that sounds kind of technical. That sounds maybe hard to connect the dots to what kind of impact that can make. But what you can do when you have that property of everyone being able to trust a database is that you can create software that has a certain set of rules, and everyone can trust that those rules will be applied, and everyone can trust that the everyone's interacting on a level playing field. So the way that we use the blockchain is we have this protocol deployed that has a set of rules that says anyone who has extra computing power and bandwidth can put that onto the LivePeer network, and they can earn money if they're powering video encoding and video distribution. And they don't have to trust me, they don't have to trust the company that I work for, because they all have access to this database that has those set of rules, and that they know the value will be transferred to them if they do work and they perform video encoding on this network. And so that's a really powerful concept that didn't exist 10 years ago. But now, because of that, to power a big video streaming network, we don't have to rent thousands of servers from Amazon Web Services or Google. We can tap into the hundreds of thousands of machines that are just sitting idle out there around the world. And the result is that to use this network, it can be 10 to 50 times more cost effective than using one of the existing providers. So that enables all sorts of kind of exciting new streaming applications that maybe were hard or cost prohibitive to start before.
Nice. So what's actually going on the blockchain? You're not sticking people's videos in the blockchain. It's something else, right?
no video touches the blockchain. So let's say you have an idle server sitting around. What you can do is you can register yourself on the blockchain, and you can essentially say, I'm open for business. And that enables anyone building a streaming app, using our software to discover you, to ping your machine and say, hey, I have a live stream. Are you available to process it? You can reply back with a price you're willing to charge to do it. And then, the software will coordinate, and they'll start sending you segments of video. You can, encode them and return them and earn payments in the process. And so the blockchain is used to kind of register your availability. It's used to settle payments to you. So people may have heard of digital currencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum. In our case, we use Ethereum. That'll pass value to you on the blockchain that you can then redeem and cash out for dollars when if you choose to. And the blockchain also has these cryptography primitives that can prove that the work that you said you were going to do, that you did it correctly. And it can penalize you if you didn't. And so it gives kind of the security that users need in order to trust that you'll do work correctly if you're some anonymous server on the internet. So those are a few of the kind of powerful things that blockchain can be used for.
All right, wait, we're getting questions already. All right. Do users have to worry about security when videos get transcoded on random GPUs across the world? Could any random video miner see the video metadata?
Yeah, great.
I guess there's sort of a couple different questions of either people messing up your videos and not transcoding them right, or people watching your videos. I guess there's a couple related concerns right here in this one question.
Yeah, great questions. These are kind of core to what we're doing, right? So the first one is, can you trust that your video will be encoded correctly, right? What if you send a video to a random GPU is the type of hardware that does the video encoding? What if you send it to a random GPU? Can you trust it was encoded correctly? And they spliced
in, never going to let you down right into the middle of your video, right?
Exactly. That's the best case scenario of what they could splice into your video. They rickroll you. So that's where kind of video fingerprinting and technology and this verification algorithms come in to give you the confidence in real time that the encoding they performed is correct, and you can serve that back to your users and then untamper your stream. And then there's actually this concept of economic security. So all of these people that are doing work on the network, they kind of have to put down a security deposit. It's called staking. It's another blockchain concept, but they actually lock up some value. And if after the fact it's demonstrated cryptographically that they actually did deliberately misencode your video, insert a rickroll into your stream, they would lose that security deposit. And that's what kind of gives you the trust, depending on your use case. For a public by default low value stream, you may work with nodes that have a smaller security deposit. If you're broadcasting some premium content to a lot of people, you might only want to work with nodes that have that large security deposit and good work history to prove it's been done correctly. That verification algorithm is kind of provided by the protocol. The second question, can any random video miner see the video metadata? The answer to that, in this day and age, before further research, is yes. If you send 2-second segment of video to a node on the network, their GPU is going to decode that video. It's going to be sitting there on their machine. They could save it. They could rebroadcast it. We focus on live streaming. We focus on user-generated content, things like Twitch, for example, where streams are typically public by default. And privacy is less of a concern. If you do have a privacy requirement, there are companies that operate on our network that you can work with them to encode your video and kind of have that contractual guarantee and still get better economics than you would on a public network. But for the lowest possible price, your videos would be public by default. And for use cases where that works, you get this cost advantage.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right, we got more questions coming in. Can you give us an idea of how much LPT or ETH you can earn by putting your GPU to work on LivePeer for 1 week or a month? All
right, Alex, you told me that our users were not going to know anything about blockchain and crypto. It turns out they know it all already.
Appears I was wrong.
Yeah, so LPT is a LivePeer token. It's a token that coordinates our network and provides these security deposits I was talking about before. And users who do work earn that. They also earn the fees that developers pay to use this network that are paid in a cryptocurrency called ETH. So how much can a node earn in 1 week by putting the GPU to work on the network, or 1 month? It's totally variable. It depends on how they perform. It depends on how much they stake. I think in the past week, there's been about $7,000 or $8,000 worth of value that have been earned, probably across 100 different node operators. That gives you a sense of what an average would be. It's skewed towards the top operators, so maybe the top 15 or 20 have each earned a couple $100 in the past week. They're doing that for running a bunch of GPUs. This gets a little bit more into technical cryptocurrency territory, but something that enables LivePeer to be so cost effective is all these operators have GPUs and they're actually using them to mine cryptocurrencies. They're earning income for things that have nothing to do with LivePeer already. And because these GPUs have video encoding chips on them, the revenue they earn on LivePeer for encoding video is just additional. We leverage those video encoding chips without disrupting their existing crypto mining. So they're earning, additional revenue that they wouldn't have earned otherwise. And these GPUs are already paid off. They're already deployed. They're already profitable. So this is just additional revenue at no opportunity cost for them. And that's why they can encode video so cheaply relative to, what you'd have to pay a cloud provider $3 an hour per stream to encode.
Oh, that really changes things. All right, a little light bulb just went off. So you're not using all of the GPU, and you're not using the parts that they use when they're mining other coins. Okay, all right. This is all suddenly getting a lot clearer.
It's a really cool opportunity and bootstrapping mechanism because. Yeah, GPUs have these things called CUDA cores that are general purpose compute units, kind of like a CPU in your computer. And that's what people use to hash crypto or do AI-based computations or these sorts of things. But then they happen to have these video encoding ASICs on there that can only encode or decode video. And so our software lets them do whatever else they were doing, but also encode video on the LivePeer network at the same time. And that's why there's
okay.
tens
So
of
I
thousands
kind of thought you had an issue
available.
that you were bidding on the same resources.
And it lives side by side.
Rise and rise. Okay. All right. I'm getting it. All right. More questions. They just keep coming in. All right. I think I know the answer to this, but pros and cons of blockchain versus Rtmp streaming in layman terms. I mean, we're Rtmp streaming to you. right? It's not a one or the other, but I'll let you take it.
Absolutely, that's right. You're still using Rtmp or SRT or your contribution protocol of choice to input video to one of these LivePeer nodes, and then when they receive it, they're transcoding it just like any cloud provider would transcode it and returning it back to your broadcast node for distribution. And you don't have to think of this as blockchain streaming. You don't have to think of this as blockchain transcoding. You can just think of blockchain as the thing that gets all of this compute power to show up and be available to encode your video streams. But you're still using video technology the same way you always were. No video ever touches the blockchain. Your video workflow looks pretty similar to what it would have looked like before.
Right. So I can take, Ecamm or Restream or StreamYard or Melon. And when it asked me to set up my destination, one of the options in Rtmp stream, and I somehow get some URL from you, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we
have a company called LivePeer Inc. And we host a video streaming service at LivePeer.com where you don't even need to know anything about blockchain or crypto. You just sign up for an API key and you get an Rtmp endpoint, and yeah, you can set up any of your streaming software of choice to stream straight to it, just like you would any other service. If you really want to interact with the blockchain, and you'll get a better price for doing so, you can download the LivePeer open source software. You can run it yourself. It's called hosting your own node. You can stream over Rtmp into that. You need to fund it up with cryptocurrency to pay the network to do video encoding. Most people choose option A. Just go to livepeer.com and use the hosted service.
Right. Okay, cool. So interesting thing in the news today, the Linux experiment, YouTube channel that, shares tips on using Linux, apparently randomly got banned by YouTube.
What's the reason? What's the justification for this?
They have no idea. But after several hours of complaining on Twitter, they got a promise that within 2 to 8 hours, YouTube will tell them why they were banned. That got me wondering, do you guys help make people immune to this sort of thing?
First of all,
because any of these centralized platforms, YouTube or whatever, if they don't like you, they just cut you off. Does distributing this in the cloud help?
First of all, this reminds me of in my previous startup, we had this popular app in the App Store, and we submitted our update, and it had been working on for months, and we had these big features, and it got randomly rejected by Apple with no justification. They held it out for weeks, and we were just trying to figure out why, and we couldn't get any support. And this seems like the thing that happens when you rely on a big tech platform for distribution. And these platforms, YouTube is amazing, Twitch is amazing. It enables and empowers so much, but at the same time, they have these enormous challenges of moderation and community management and everything. So you hear these
problems, right?
Yeah. Okay, so how does LivePeer fix this? First of all, taking a step back, LivePeer is actually on its own. It's an infrastructure platform. It's not targeting an individual streamer who, an individual wouldn't switch from YouTube to LivePeer because they wouldn't have a site to host their stream and have all the features, the chat room, the social distribution, the commenting, all everything they want. Our users are developers that are building things that look like Twitch or YouTube. So we have DJ streaming sites and artist streaming sites and sports streaming communities and live social shopping experiences and video game streaming, and these sorts of individual sites. So those are the apps that would build on LivePeer. So does LivePeer help prevent people from getting shadow banned or moderated off YouTube? Our belief is that there's all these amazing verticals of creator streaming platforms right now, and YouTube and Twitch can't possibly cater to all of them. They can't have the features that serve those communities, and a lot of them are really community oriented. right? Like a community of DJs that are streaming sets to their audiences have totally different feature requirements than what's enabled on Facebook or Twitch. In fact, they often get kicked off Facebook or Twitch because the algorithms automatically detect that they played a song that they might not have the license to, and the stream will get automatically kicked off. Whereas,
or they don't even know if they have the license. So
they don't even know.
Turns out you might have the license, and how would YouTube know, right?
Exactly. And so like one of our users, playdj.tv, builds a great streaming platform for DJs, and they handle the licensing on the back end. So DJs pay a subscription, they pay the royalty fees to the various agencies, et cetera. And therefore, like they create a great streaming experience for musicians, and they actually restream, through LivePeer into Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, but they do audio off. So they have the streams going with no audio to prevent the banning problem. And so how does like LivePeer help? When you have open infrastructures that are cost effective, a site like PlayDJ can exist. They actually launched on a cloud platform that was 10 times more expensive initially, had wild success, but they had to shut down after 2 weeks because the infrastructure bill was bankrupting them. So then they found and turned to an open network like LivePeer, were able to relaunch and actually find a sustainable business model because it was so much more cost effective. And then their community of DJs who is super disenchanted with the big platforms, can come with them, and they can like build this platform together as a community, grow from there, and create a better experiences. So I think we're going to see like an explosion in this like creator economy, creator centric live streaming, when you have tools and infrastructure that's kind of friendly to it. And, we want to be a big part of that.
Yeah. So just since you gave me the segue, on Thursday, our guest is going to be Faith and the Glitch, who, is streaming, EDM music live streamed. So people really interested in his DJ example, come back on Thursday. We'll really be digging into that one. So what apps are you using it? You said you're live today. You've got apps. What apps are there? Yeah,
we've focused on kind of user-generated content, right? So I mentioned a great one called playdj.tv. Check that out. Live DJ and music streaming. There's one called Korkuma.com, which I think is an inspirational example in kind of live commerce and live shopping, a trend that's huge in India and China, is starting to pick up here in the US and Europe. Because of LivePeer, instead of focusing on like enterprises and big chains, they can actually focus on kind of the long tail of shop owners, like people with their online Shopify store or their small kind of mom and pop business, can go live and kind of curate and have a QVC type experience, and which is, generates a lot of commerce. We've seen kind of your crypto centric streaming, which I think is interesting because it lets creators monetize with cryptocurrency and NFTs and these sort of new trends. So there's one called Vim.tv that focuses on gaming. There's an exciting one called Glass.xyz that's focused on kind of art and film production and helping people monetize their creations through live streams. And I think that whole world is new. It's interesting. Some things are going to shake out and not really work, but the notion that people who create content can actually connect and monetize directly with the fans is really powerful. And we're excited about what they're building at Glass to help enable that.
Nice. So you mentioned livepeer.org and livepeer.com. What's the difference? What's the relationship?
Yeah, so LivePeer.org you can think of as like an open source project and community, right? Everything we build is open source. So we have open source video media server. We have this blockchain protocol. We have this community of thousands of people. There's 3,000 people who participate actively in the LivePeer network. And so LivePeer.org kind of is the code, and it describes the rules of the game, and it's how where the community coordinates to power this network. LivePeer.com you can think of as like the first product that's built on this network. It's a developer-facing streaming API It's like a SaaS platform, and it makes it easy to use the LivePeer network because we hide cryptocurrency and blockchain, and we let people sign up with a credit card, right? And so you can think of that as like the commercial entity that's the first way to access the LivePeer network. And people are building things directly on livepeer.org. They don't need .com. They don't need to talk to us or interact with us. They can do that permissionlessly and build wherever they want. Or they can kind of use the quick start, easy product we've created at .com.
Okay, cool. Although, so then where do they get the LivePeer tokens?
If you use .com, you don't need it. We handle all of that on your behalf, right? Okay. If you are interested in operating on the network, like putting your servers on the network and earning money for encoding video, that's where you would, you go to livepeer.org to learn about it. You would get LivePeer token at any cryptocurrency exchange like Coinbase, for example, or Binance. And then you would use that to kind of put your security deposit on the network to do work and start participating.
Okay. So it's on all those standard, I can just go to Coinbase and I can trade.
That's right. You can press the buy button.
All right. So there are some vaguely similar things out there, right? I mean, why does this need a new coin? Like, why couldn't you have just used Filecoin or something and just added a little bit of video stuff?
Yeah. So the token basically has its own set of it has its own economic design. It has its own set of incentives built in. We talked about the use of it. The use of it is to put down the security deposit so that you can compete to win the work. And if you win the work, you earn the money that people are paying. But the way that this token was distributed, the way that people get the token, was by following a set of incentives that were really helpful in bootstrapping this network. So if you stake the token, if you show up to do the work, you're going to earn more of that token every day. That kind of rewards those who are actively participating and helping. And it actually punishes those who are just like speculating on the token, like holding it just to trade, for example, because every day more tokens issued, but it's not going to them. It's only going to those operating on the network. So it's sort of deflating. It's like minimizing the ownership percentage of those who are just passively not participating. And so over years, this mechanism has been really effective for bootstrapping. It's created a big community that all has shared ownership and stake in this network that want it to succeed. There's lots of other nuances, like once you deposit it, you can't get it out for a period of 7 days. That kind of makes you long-term aligned, so you don't do anything harmful to the network. And by kind of creating your own asset, you get all those powerful effects. You bootstrap the network, you create a community, you align the incentives with everyone, and you can control these economic incentives in a way where if you just said, let's use dollars, it wouldn't create a bootstrapped network. And at the end of the day, the real value is created by the dollars that are paid into the network in order to use it, because they're spread to those who are doing work, the token holders. So you could think of it as, if you own 1% of all the tokens on the network, you would have the right to try and earn 1% of all of the fees that are paid in. And so everyone wants to see those fees rise. They want to see more adoption, more usage. And that's where kind of the value would come from.
Oh, okay, that's really cool. So let's talk about you personally for a second. What did you do before LivePeer?
I'm a software engineer by background, a complete computer nerd. If you couldn't tell, I've been building kind of my own little websites and hobby projects since middle school or whatnot. And then, professionally, I did some software engineering at big companies for a little while, but I got the entrepreneurial itch pretty early, and kind of as a software engineer, helped found and build a couple companies with a couple of the same core people. The first one we built was a local data platform back when GPSs were starting to get embedded into every phone, and we knew that new location-based apps like Yelp and Uber and Foursquare and Airbnb and these sorts of things would need location data. And so that one we had some success with and found fit and got acquired by Groupon when they were a really fast growing startup to become their data team. And then we, same group, kind of worked on a publishing platform for mobile when everything was shifting from desktop internet to mobile internet and mobile apps. And we created all this cool infrastructure tech that could convert any desktop website into a great native mobile experience and try and make it work inside of Facebook and inside of Twitter and inside of Pinterest and inside of Google search results. And then we got completely burned because all 4 of those platforms built their own versions of this, worked directly with publishers, didn't open their APIs the way they initially were. And I already mentioned that experience where like Apple controlled our distribution and like held our app out of the App Store. And we were just like, never again are we building on these like closed tech platforms and you know, having them in control of our destiny, because everything we thought would happen happened, but we didn't get to be part of it. And so, you know, that one definitely didn't work out. We learned some hard lessons there, but it kind of led us to you know, this open, this open developer platform, you know, Ethereum, which is, you know, it takes that kind of blockchain as a database idea, but it actually makes it fully programmable. It's not just a database, but it's actually contains a programming language where you can build kind of the rules of the game the same way you would write any other computer software. And that was like such a powerful light bulb moment for us. It was like create open software, embed economics into it, and you know, allow anyone to participate in its future success in a way where they realize you know, upside for participating. And so that was super inspiring to us. And having done a lot of video engineering, we knew it could bring a lot of advantages to video.
That's cool. All right. Well, I have to interrupt you real quick.
Please
Speaking of interruptions.
Streamergency. The stressful situation when one's live stream breaks down or cuts out unexpectedly.
All right. So there's a new thing we're doing because of our sponsor, me. So tell me about a streamergency you had, Doug. An example of you being live doing video things and everything going to hell.
My worst streamergency is worse than the stream cutting out unexpectedly. It's the stream stayed up when you didn't want it to stay up.
Oh no, what happened?
So I mentioned we're a community project and we have thousands of people that participate, right? And so every month we host community calls, which are kind of open calls. Anyone can join, hear project updates, ask questions. So we were doing a community call a couple of years ago, and we made the mistake of you know, giving out the participation link, you know, publicly and not in kind of a curated invite only way. And so in the middle of this call with, I don't know how many people, around 50 people and more were watching the live stream and whatnot, all of a sudden someone, I forget what it was, you know, Mr. Y shows up, and all of a sudden I think we were using Zoom maybe, and all of a sudden it's like, Mr. Y is starting to share his screen. And then all of a sudden there was, you know, something on the live stream that none of us will ever be able to unsee in the middle of our publicly broadcast community call with people all around the world participating. And I think I had the worst possible reaction, which was like not to end the stream or moderate it off, but it was just to like close my laptop and start cursing.
Which of course doesn't stop anyone in the audience from seeing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was a moment of sheer panic, just because, you know, I'm at work here with my team and everything. I don't want to see that. So I think that was my biggest streamergency. I don't know if I ever recovered from it. I think I eventually, you know, ended the stream and restarted it with a different link and apologized profusely. But we learned some lessons the hard way that day to, you know, moderate the invites and push people towards the live stream if they're not going to actively participate.
All right. So it turns out my shtick about stopping your internet from cutting out is not particularly useful in that case.
I think Speedify could have helped us. I don't know how, but it couldn't have hurt.
Oh, here's another question. Oh, do you see a feature where videos that go through the LivePeer have an option to sell as an NFT once the stream is over? putting these things together.
Yeah, so taking a step back for those who don't know, an NFT, it stands for non-fungible token. Not that that makes a lot more sense to people, but you can think of it as like a digital collectible. So, a good analogy is a baseball card in the physical world is a collectible item. One person owns it, they get bought and sold. But with digital goods like, digital art or videos, they're infinitely copyable, right? So there's a million copies of any JPEG that lives on the internet. But this kind of NFT standard makes it so that you can cryptographically prove who the owner of this piece of this digital asset is. What's it mean to be the owner of a digital asset? Well, it means, again, on the blockchain, everyone can see who the owner is. And just through social consensus, people trust and agree that that person is the owner. And maybe in some cases that's meaningless. In other cases, it means, maybe authority, maybe you're a recognized collector. Maybe it gives you the option or the right to something in the future. And like in the case of video, people say, oh, the owner of the video gets to, participate in a live Q&A with the creator before they release their next film or something like that, right? So we've seen all sorts of creative examples. Some are awesome, some are kind of confusing. And so the question here is, do you see a future where videos can go through LivePeer and be sold as an NFT, so someone could actually own the live stream? And I would say, yes, like that's not really up to us at LivePeer as a video infrastructure, but it's up to the people developing the great products built on LivePeer that if they want to focus on that use case. And we're already seeing that. I mentioned a platform called class.xyz. I think they did a live stream where they actually sold 25 different NFTs during the live stream, and the creators made something like $10,000 as a result. This is not out of thin air. These are actually like cool pieces of art that they've created. A lot of film students did projects and sold them through there. And then the owners kind of get to display it, and they have attribution, and in a lot of marketplaces, they're kind of displayed as the owner. So this is, I think it's a powerful mechanism because it's actually letting creators create things and monetize them directly to their fans without middlemen. And I think it's going to be a cool way that people fund and create things in the future, kind of an evolution of Patreon or these sort of creator-centric platforms.
Yeah, cool. Actually, so huge step back. So why did you guys decide live streaming was the thing you were going to focus on, right? I mean, these technologies could be applied to a million different things.
Yeah, I mean, video is like such a big part of our lives and what we were really excited about, and we saw how that was going to increase in the future. Look at this past year. Like we used video as we were socially distanced. Like we used video to work, to get entertained, to learn, be educated, to participate in the economy. Right? It's like 80% of the traffic on the internet is video, and kind of on-demand video it's cool. You create something, it lives forever, and you can consume it. I think it's great for highly produced pieces of content. But with live streaming, like everyone gets to participate. You're part of the experience, right? And you're in real time. It's almost like the digital version of real life, if you will, interacting with other people. We can see it here on this stream. Like people are asking questions and we're getting to interact, right? And so it's so much more dynamic and engaging. And then just from an infrastructure perspective, I think it's a lot more interesting and challenging, and we bring a lot of advantages through live streaming. So it's very difficult to set up a live streaming infrastructure that doesn't buffer, that can deliver content globally to audiences that scale. And it's one of the challenges in building a live streaming app on a traditional infrastructure is like you need to reserve enough capacity to handle whatever your peak traffic is. And you have to like predict that in advance. You have to pay for it in advance. You have to reserve it. But a lot of times you're not at peak traffic. You're kind of at low traffic, and eventually you come to peak, and then you're down again. But you have to pay
90% of the time you're not at peak, right?
Exactly. And so we thought like, oh, with this open decentralized network with hundreds of thousands of GPUs on it, to developers you can say, okay, it scales, automagically, if you will, because there's so much more supply available because all these machines are just out there already, doing their mining thing. It's just additional revenue. So it scales on demand. It's really cost effective. You don't need to pay in advance to reserve capacity. And as a result, hopefully it can be more reliable. You've removed single points of failure. You can pay for redundancies, and you have nodes that are located near you to do the work. So, those are advantages that are like tremendous in live, because live is so difficult and requires that planning. Whereas with video on demand, sure, our network can serve that, but it's not quite as hard to like upload a video and say, hey, any of these idle servers, like process it sometime in the future when you're available, and then the video will be available forever. Different challenges there, but sure. Live streaming is where we can make an impact.
Cool. So what live streaming do you watch? Like what creators are you really into these days?
With young kid in the house, like I'm lucky if I get anything beyond the Wiggles and whatever's on PBS Kids. So
I remember those days.
Yeah. So busy on that front, but I'm always consuming like news and information about these areas where I work. So whether that's kind of the latest crypto and blockchain, which is a real like information rabbit hole where there's new news coming out every day.
So how do you stay on top of that stuff, right? I mean, what sites are you looking at?
Yeah, I think like podcasts are great, right? Newsletters are great. I'm really excited about a lot of what's coming out on Substack, where kind of smart people are publishing newsletters and going direct to people, as opposed to like big news and media platforms. Podcasts continue to be great for the commute. So I don't have any Twitch streamer or YouTuber recommendations for you all, unfortunately. But if you want the latest crypto newsletters and podcasts, let me know and I can provide some of those.
All right. I think some people probably are interested. Is there one or two you'd like to share? Who should we really follow if we want to on Substack?
Sure. Yeah. So I think on the podcast front, Laura Shin does a great podcast called Unchained. There's a podcast called Epicenter that does a great job really getting to the latest of what's going on kind of in the builder ecosystem in crypto. I definitely recommend that one. On the newsletter side, I think there's a platform called Masari that does kind of research into new and latest projects and puts out a daily newsletter that I think is a great source of information. And then for kind of broader tech in general, I still am a fan of Benedict Evans puts out a great kind of research analysis based newsletter once a week that I recommend.
Cool. All right. What else? So, all right. Sorry,
have we hit it
I'm
off?
out of questions. This has been really good stuff. So anyone in the audience, as a reminder, I see people kind of coming and going. We are answering, right? So if you post questions, on Facebook, on Twitch, whatever, we will see it and we will answer them. So please ask. What's
the latest on Speedify? Turning the tables here a bit.
So we probably for Mac users, we fixed our worst problem last Friday, which is that we finally have friendly names on the adapters. So on every other platform, we had nice names like, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or, the name of your Wi-Fi network. And on the Mac, we had, ETH0, WLAN1, names like that. So it's finally fixed. So all Mac users update immediately. And, it's single words changed in the user interface, but it's practically a whole new app. So that is the exciting new thing on Speedify that everyone should play with if you're on a Mac. For the rest of us, it's just a tiny bit faster. So you should probably update as well.
Incremental improvements. That's right. Every app store update message just says what's new, minor bug fixes and improvements.
Yes,
I'll take that.
So we've started actually writing 2 sentences about what we actually changed. And, you know, it's often pretty minor stuff, but we don't want to be those people who every release notes is minor bug fixes. So we're trying to actually write out what we changed. So if you go look in our histories in the App Store, you will see the changes. And, you know, we do a lot of releases. We're pretty much on every 3-week schedule now. So, you know, that's a lot of releases a year.
Yeah. I forget what app it was. I saw one app that took their release notes very, very seriously and made them very entertaining. And it actually became like a huge source of kind of user retention and commitment. People just loved that and always wanted to stick with the app as a result.
That's right. Let's see, any more questions from people? So any advice do you have for people who are doing their own live streams in order to make them either technically or you know, what do you like seeing in a stream to
use Speedify? I hear it's really good at speeding up live streams. Yeah. So we get a lot of like the apps that build on LivePeer end up going through the same set of debugging with their users to try and make sure that their users are streaming well. And I don't think I have any silver bullets, but you know, a lot of times when people are using software like OBS, it's helpful if they set their settings, like their output bitrate, to make sure that it's low enough relative to the connection speed they have. It's helpful if they set the segment length, typically to something like, in our case, we prefer 2-second segments, but sometimes 4 or 6-second segments, depending on the platform.
So the segments is the time between the iframes, the keyframes? Is that what you mean by that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And there's a setting in most streaming software where you can.
Well, that seems like a really long time between them, but I guess if you think about it, a live stream like this, we probably not that much. You're right. Your background hasn't changed at all. The whole right.
Yeah,
maybe it makes sense to have them that far apart.
It doesn't mean there won't be more keyframes within a 2-second segment, but it does mean that every 2 seconds there will be a keyframe, so that a segmenter can essentially then segment this into 2 seconds, and then those become, you know, HLS is the kind of popular delivery protocol. They can become the basis for the 2-second HLS segments, so that when you do the video encoding, you can convert those 2-second segments into all the different formats and bit rates you need to deliver to all devices. So those are, you know, some of the first tips that our sites end up having to give to their users. And I think, you know, on our blog or on, you know, Twitch blog or a lot of these streaming platforms, you can find tips like that.
Yeah. So we actually added maybe 3 weeks ago to Speedify a live streaming test. So it just uploads and, you know, tries to estimate based on the upload bit rate and errors, you know, what's the right level to dial into your software. So that's a helpful tip. If you're not sure what to dial in there, you can fire that up and Speedify the live streaming test, and it'll tell you if you can support 1080p or 4K or 480p if things are much, much slower. So very helpful, because a lot of times people don't know what to dial in, and they go through a very painful trial and error, right?
Yeah, how could they? I mean, this should be built into streaming software by default, but it never is, and so
yeah, I don't know why it's not
expect people to know what these numbers mean.
I mean, OBS has an automatic option, but it says, you know, warning beta, slightly scary.
Yeah, you set that, and then you see red on your upload. Probably the best tip, I mean, is just plug into your wired Ethernet connection, right? You see people trying to stream on Wi-Fi and end up in a world of pain.
Yeah. So Kane is asking, what is your programming language of choice? And I'll add, are you actually still writing code these days?
Good question. I'm not writing nearly as much code as I wish that I could be. But when I do write code, We use Golang to do a lot of our system level software engineering. Anything that touches video, deals with encoding, our video input and output protocols, we do in Golang. And then my favorite scripting language for when I have like a one-off kind of data processing job or script to process or something that I do is still Ruby. And that's a remnant from the Ruby on Rails days, which was a web framework that was really popular before kind of JavaScript and React took over the world.
Right. So I was a software developer too, and now the software developers here don't want me mucking around in their source code. So I ended up writing a Python API to control Speedify. And now I think it's working really well. I'm prototyping all sorts of new features in Python, right? So all the new notifications and a lot of the live stream tests start off as Python scripts that I ran myself until I got them right.
Yep.
Right.
Now that's going to be the production.
That helped form a spec, and not one line of my code made it into Speedify. But
I was going to say that was going to then become the production code that then you have to maintain, even though they don't want you touching it. Because
yeah. So using the wrong programming language stops that from happening. Right.
I don't think that's wrong. I think Python is a great choice for that. I also I wrote the initial LivePeer node in Go. And, it's still the same code base that's evolved, but I actually wonder, I have no idea, how much of my code is still in there. I assume most of it has been thrown out and improved upon, but maybe I still have a few lines.
So how many people started off in the original team writing the code?
Just me and my co-founder, Eric, I think for the first 6 months.
And now there's thousands of people hacking away on it.
Well, there's probably about 50 people that have actively or do actively contribute to the code base over the years. The thousands of people are the people who take the software and actually run it on their own machines, or participate in kind of the security and QA of the network by depositing these tokens on behalf of those nodes and kind of QAing and routing work towards the effective ones. It's kind of a whole other side to it. So yeah, it's kind of a large but really rewarding community to work with and be a part of.
All right, Mr. Tibbetts is wondering if users can try livepeer.com for free.
They can. You can use it. I think it's up to 1,000 minutes of streaming a month for free. And it's actually not if you are a streamer, it's not a crazy way to try your hand at using a streaming platform and embedding a stream on your own personal site, for example, because you can do it all with no code, and then you would just have to kind of embed the player, any video player on your site to showcase your stream. So whether you're a developer or a streamer, you can check that out.
Oh, nice. So it works with any player?
Yep. The output is just HLS video. So any video player out there, Theo player, HLS.js, Video.js, JW player, I'm probably forgetting many, but drop any of them into your site. Many of them are free as well. And just fire up the stream that you create. It'll have a URL, so you just configure that to play, and your stream will be live.
Right. And so same servers on the network are the CDN as well, right? You're providing that as not just a transcoding. LivePeer is also the CDN, is that right?
So for kind of wide scale use, we bundle a traditional CDN. Okay. And a LivePeer node can be an origin node if you don't want to use a CDN. And then we have a R&D project in the works, which actually uses kind of peer-to-peer content delivery to mitigate the majority of the traffic off of a CDN that's not released yet, though we would, anyone interested in using that, we'd love to talk to beta testers and test that out with you if you're willing.
All right. At that point, we're at the whole Silicon Valley peer-to-peer internet, right?
The decentralized internet.
That's right.
We're getting there.
Yeah, this Web 3.0 stuff, it's starting to come together.
Yeah, look, we do video streaming, but there's other great projects that we partner with that do file storage and data indexing and VPN access and these sorts of things that kind of developers are combining them all together to create applications that don't run on traditional cloud services, but can scale, are cost effective, and are kind of open and put users in control of their data. So yeah, I think it's been a long time, been a long time in the works, but we're kind of getting to a tipping point, seeing the first cool applications.
All right, awesome. Well, I think we're coming up on the hour here, so thank you, Doug. This was awesome. So I mean, check out his stuff. What livepeer.com is where people should start. Is that right?
Yep, check us out, livepeer.com, livepeer.org, and you can find us on Twitter at livepeer.org. Happy to introduce some more people into our project and community.
And they've got all kinds of great white papers and stuff. If you want more details, there's a lot of reading material up there. And I made it through half of it.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, for the prep and research and everything. This was great.
Yeah, this is really cool. So if you liked this, obviously, please follow us or subscribe, whatever it is, based on whichever platform you're watching on, because we will be back on Thursday, same time, with Faith in the Glitch, who's going to talk about doing electronic music, live streaming. It's going to be really fun. So thank you again, Doug. Sorry for messing up your name at the beginning. I'm not going to try again. I don't know why I can't say it while we're live.
No problem.
Right?
Like I said, you wouldn't be the first one to mispronounce Petkanics, but now everyone's got it.
Petkanics. There we go. Now you all know how to say it. Sorry.
Yep.
The name like Jesus. Who am I to talk? All right. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, Alex.
We'll see you on live.